Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Gary Wimmer, and he has a very, very interesting near-death experience. Hi, Gary.
Hello, good to be with you, Peg. Good to be with all you folks. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So just start wherever you like and take as long as you like.
Well, I considered myself one of the luckiest people on the planet for what I got to experience. I was born in 47. I'm 75. I started studying psychic ability in college. I was raised Catholic. Had no problem with God or Christ. Had a problem with Catholic Church. I mean, if you can't understand human sexuality, that's base one. So anyway, I in college started reading a lot of Edgar Cayce, Madame Blavatsky, about spiritualists and psychics and so forth. Uh, a lady in college did a horoscope for me and said, "You got a lot of natural psychic ability." I was an electrical engineer in college and a musician. Started playing way before the Beatles came out, guitar. Got out of college in 1970, moved to Austin, saw another psychic. She said the same thing. You got a lot of natural psychic ability. I served 2 years as a conscientious objector in a state school here. I was opposed to Vietnam. I got out. It was still defense work, all defense work, electrical engineer. I did not want to work in the defense industry. So I started playing music. And I went through a lot of depression in my 20s because I didn't have a good voice. A lot of it was vocal work. Um, so I went through a fair amount of pretty deep depression. And in 1977, I quit a band, traveling on the road a lot. I came back to a little duplex where I was living with two friends. Didn't know either of them very well, but I moved in with them, and within 24 hours, life changed. I didn't know why, but all of a sudden, I started being able to pick up even that night. This is January 31st, 77. I started picking up what people are going to say before they say it, not just once or twice, but over and over. My roommates went to bed, and I tried to go to sleep, couldn't sleep, up all night, awake, thinking of everything. Next day, my roommate comes walking in with the newspaper. He's reading it. I read the paper through his eyes, blew me away. He threw the paper down on the table. I looked at it. It was an article about Jimmy Carter. I was stunned. He said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." Next couple of days, it turned into a tsunami of unexplainable psychic ability. I'd walk down the street and I could pick up thoughts about everybody. I could pick up their whole life unsolicited. I started getting kind of scared. That night, we went out to a bar, and as we walked into the bar, I felt a strange premonition at some certain point right outside the door. Went in the bar, got real noisy. I couldn't take the noise in the back room. Walked back into the quieter part of the bar section, thought about taking a break outside, needed some air. And all of a sudden, I'm standing outside at the exact spot that I'd felt a few minutes earlier. And these people walked right through me. And it shocked me. I opened my eyes. And of course, I'm still sitting on the bar stool. The door flung open and the people walked through just exactly as I just seen. So I practiced that 3 or 4 times, could nail it every time. Then I started feeling their names and everything. My roommate came in. I bet him $5 I could tell how the next people were dressed. He thought I was outside a minute earlier. Nope. Ask all these people. I was right here. This got so intense there was no neutral. Within a day or two, I either was picking up stuff about the universe, or at random, I would look at like a complete stranger 2 blocks away, and I would think, scratch your head and point up to that building, and they would do that. And then I would think, did I know that was going to happen and pick it up, or did I make that person do that? And if I made that person do that, what if I thought car wreck? You know, the whole thought process got so intense, and I felt so fragile. I felt so sensitive to everybody, extremely oversensitive. I didn't want to make any ripples, but I was acting weird and strange, and my roommates and friends were getting concerned. I wrote a book called The Second Eternity. It's about that experience in pretty good detail. It's even got the police records in the book, and I'll explain why. After a week of this, I'll give you another example. I was my roommate and I were in a restaurant, and he was constantly asking me if I'm doing okay, and I said, yeah, it's just getting real intense. He said, well, like what? And I said, well, I'll show you. It's easier. And I looked over at the far end of the bar, and there's two ladies eating. Excuse me. I didn't know any of them, either of them. I asked him to kind of gently look over there. He did. He didn't know either of them. I said, I'm going to have the brunette who's facing away from me. Neither of them were looking at us. The brunette, I'm going to have her write me a letter. What? I'm going to have her write me a letter. Completely harmless. Again, there was no neutral. So I kept, while we're eating dinner, I kept thinking of that lady, brunette, and drawing like a laser beam right over to me. The guy in the blue shirt sitting over here, write me a letter, harmless. 15 minutes later, they came walking by our table, and she threw down a napkin upon which she had written in big, bold black letters, all caps, "Why are you doing this to me?" That freaked me out, freaked him out. She didn't say a word. She just threw it on the table as she walked by. Things started getting so bizarre that I had never been so scared in my life. At the same time, I never felt so enlightened. I kept feeling these guardian angels protecting me in some sort of way. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. And that's probably one of the few peaceful things I felt, because I felt something's watching me, something knows what's going on. After a week of this, and there's all kinds of incidences in this book, it just kept snowballing and snowballing, so intense, so intense. I was scared out of my wits after a week of this. I couldn't take it any longer. I felt protected by some sort of monitors. They called themselves the monitors, or I suggested that name and they agreed because they were monitoring me. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. After a week, this is February 7th, 1977. I'd gone through a week of this. I was terrified. I didn't know why. I didn't know if there was a button I could push to stop it and end it. I had no idea why what this is going on. I definitely had an idea what was going on. The wall between my subconscious and conscious mind had just dissipated. My conscious mind was picking up everything my subconscious would. And our subconscious knows everything. It taps into the superconscious. So once that wall dissipates, and thank God it's there most of the time so we can deal with normal stuff and use our logical, rational human minds without the subconscious interrupting. But as I tell people, if you walk outside and just close your eyes, you stop all the sun rays from coming in your eyes. The same principle, your conscious mind, whether you know it or not, can block your subconscious. That's why people say meditate, turn off your conscious mind for a moment. But you have to use your conscious mind to turn off your conscious mind to meditate. And my conscious mind was picking up my subconscious, and it was a zoo, and it was getting so strange. And it was evening of February 7th. I was racing, going to maybe walk over my girlfriend's house. I was 3 miles away. I had no idea. My car was broken. So I got down to Guadalupe Street in Austin, Texas here, and I'm just terrified. And I'm crying and I'm praying. And there's a lot of people on the street looking at me. I made a big circle around me. They didn't know what to do. And I felt so explosive. I felt like saying, back away, I may blow up. I didn't say that, but that's the way I felt. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to confuse anybody. It's heavy enough what I was going through. And I was terrified. And all of a sudden, I felt this absolute dissipation of fear. It disappeared in a millisecond, and I felt warm. And I opened my eyes and I looked up, and there's this huge light. It looked like a spotlight 6 feet above my head. And I remember my first thought was, if I had a ladder, I could walk up there and touch the darn thing. It was physical. Excuse me. I looked around at all these people who had formed a big circle around me, wondering if I was okay. And of course, they didn't see this thing. They weren't even looking up. They were looking at me. And I looked up and looked around and looked up and finally thought, I don't care if they see it or not. And I looked up again. And then I realized this light was coming down from the palms of these 7 white-robed, grayish-robed individuals, souls, entities. And they said, do you trust us? like a James Earl Jones voice, one low, booming, authoritative, but comforting voice. And the fear had just absolutely dissipated. I said, absolutely, I trust you, you know. I don't understand what's going on. Shh, do you trust us? Just for a time or two. And I said, okay, yeah. Within a split second, I was, as a pedestrian, had a head-on collision with a speeding car. And
Mm.
I was outside my body. As soon as my body hit the car, I saw my body tumbling over the car. And all of a sudden, the whole earth got real small. And I was growing out like the surface of a balloon in all directions simultaneously. Never had that thought, never had that experience. The whole earth, the first thing I remember really noticing was inside me. I could see North and South Pole and all the way around because it was inside my spiritual psychic body. My physical body was laying down Guadalupe Street. People were screaming and hollering, but I didn't care. It was almost like a feeling of detachment from it. And within no time at all, I didn't have any idea who I was. It was just pure sensation and beautiful. And I started expanding through space and time. And I went through the edge of the universe to this area that seemed to define itself as the colors. And it was a realm of consciousness that when we come in, we go through this area of consciousness that allows us through our senses, you know, our five senses and the sixth sense, to be able to understand who we are, where we came from, blah, blah, blah. So the colors were a form of kind of like teaching. So when you get to the planet, you can use your brain and so forth to understand yourself or not. That's free will. We can stay stupid, you know.
You can stay stupid.
No, you can't. Curiosity is the healthiest thing on the planet. If you don't ask questions, you just don't learn as much as you could. If you never went through a curveball, you'd never learn how to bat in life. If you never went through fear, and believe me, I went through the most incredible fear ever, you can never become fearless. And knock on wood or plastic, my computer, uh, nothing scares me. I'm not afraid of anything. And maybe tomorrow that'll change. I could be hit by an asteroid, you know, who knows? But I felt this incredible, incredible sensation of expansion. No idea who I was. Went through the colors. It was more and more beautiful every second. I wrote a couple pages on it in the book. It's just hard to describe. But I got to this place. Actually, I saw these infinite universes. I came out of one universe and it looked like a whole sky full of universes. And that's the one I came out of. And they seemed to roll into a big, like a tube, a tunnel of light, actually. Gray silver clouds spinning around. And I'm shooting through it like a clown on a balloon, but happy. Just thrilled. No, not aware of it's me, but it was a beautiful sensation. Then I landed in this sky blue infinity, kind of a combination of all the blue colors behind you. And of course, I had no idea who I was, but it was infinite creativity. There was no beginning, no ending. There was no bias. There was no limit to it. And basically, it had two choices, if I can use that term. Either infinite mind and infinite creativity, unbiased, existed, which it does, and everything exists or can, or it wouldn't exist and nothing would exist. There's nothing in between. It's either all or nothing. And here I was experiencing infinite mind. And like a lot of people who've had near death experiences, I felt this connection to infinite love. As varied as near death experiences is, that's the one most common thing. People feel infinite love. Now, how infinite love turned into infinite creativity, infinite manifestation is completely beyond the laws of physics or science, or you can't understand it rationally and logically. In fact, the only time I could understand infinite mind, its completeness, was when I was there, period. And it seemed like eternity. It seemed like infinite mind just kept spinning around and I was seeing all parts of myself, it, whatever. And then at some point, I felt like I was witnessing it and I was being pulled away. I went, whoa, 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 whoa. I used the term spiritual gravity in my book, A Second in Eternity. I was pulled back to somewhere. I had no idea where, but where I was pretty nice. And I was a little bit apprehensive about where I was going because I didn't know who I was, but I was being pulled somewhere. And I came back into this universe. It seemed like as I came through this tunnel of light, everything kind of did it in reverse. I went back through this tunnel of light, saw this universe, seemed to be pulled into it, collapsed in from the edge of the universe, so to speak, went through the colors, still had no idea who I was. But as I'm getting closer and closer to this planet, this galaxy, this solar system, this planet, I saw three series of pictures. And one of them was what I describe in my book and what I talk about. It's this century. It's the Aquarian age. It's all the conflict and turmoil. I saw 9/11. I saw COVID-19. I saw this global warming. And remember, it's 1977. I saw these pumped up males, young guys with AK-47s. Now, you couldn't even imagine that in 1977, an individual having a military weapon shooting people. I saw that. I didn't write in my book. I thought that can't be the case. Well, it is. So I saw all these pictures of what we're going through, and it is intense. And it's it's a 50-year period, 100-year period. It's not a switch. It's going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, basically. First series of images. Second series of images is I'm coming back into my body. Still don't know who I am, but I saw all these, the other side of this, the Aquarian age, space, science, technology, completely different world in 50 to 100 years, but it has to be. And as I was saying in the first phase, the whole humankind, all humankind is getting to see all the holes in the boat and the flaws in ourselves and in our systems so we can fix them. Because you can't fix something if you don't see what's broken. Second series of pictures, like I said, was the beautiful future ahead. Not a particular date, but, the next 2,500 years on this planet. Quite different, but quite challenging because we're going through a real messy time to see what needs to be fixed. We fix it. We come out a different place. There may be a fourth of the world's population. There may be 10 times. I don't know. Free will. But we're not going to stop the change that's necessary for all humankind. What we're going through now, everybody's asking questions. Good. Everybody's extreme. Good. We get to see what needs to be fixed. So that's the second pair of images, the other side of this, the Aquarian age. The third pair of images was some guy who was a musician and a psychic and playing piano and traveling all over Europe. And then I saw my body and I jumped back into my body. Man, I just been to heaven. I felt so beautiful, peaceful. But all of a sudden, I'm in my body and there's this red hair. I'm laying down the concrete, this red-haired driver just screaming, petrified. Man, I couldn't stop you. I tried. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'd just been to heaven. It was eerie, but I wasn't hurt. I knew it. I pushed the guy away, got up. He tried to hold me back. You're in shock. No, I'm not shocked. Didn't even hurt. Pedestrians all around, people screaming and hollering. They called the police, called the ambulance. I looked around and thought, well, the car is screwed up, but I'm going home. Nobody's hurt. So as I started to walk home, they said, no, wait for the cops and the ambulance. And I thought, okay, yeah. Explain it to the police, what happened, what I saw, just go home. That's the truth, right? Right. Well, when the cops and the ambulance came, they were all looking around for a body. It was laying in the street, blood covered, and I was standing up talking to people. Who's hurt? Who's there? Everybody points to me, and I went, yep, I'm the guy. And they come over. How are you even standing? The whole car's banged in. I said, just like you on your feet. And they kept asking me questions, how I wouldn't hurt. And every time I'd answer them, of course, that made no sense. They weren't with me. They didn't know what I just went through. They didn't know what I went through the final week. They didn't know that I'd just been to heaven and back. And this was a pure psychic spiritual experience. And the little accident with the car was nothing to me, but to them, it was everything. Well, they wouldn't let me go home. They couldn't see anything wrong with me. I'm standing up, perfectly healthy. In fact, pretty manic at this point. So they said, well, we're going to have to take you to the hospital. Okay. They took me to the hospital, x-rayed me, checked me out. No broken bones, nothing hurt. They put a little Band-Aid on my head, one little Band-Aid. I think just to make it look like I was at the hospital, because I wasn't hurt. Then
Where'd the
in the
blood come
emergency,
from?
pardon me?
Where'd the blood come from?
I don't even know. I just noticed they put a Band-Aid. Like I say, I
There
think they
was
just
blood
put
like at the scene, right?
I didn't see any blood. I didn't feel any blood. I didn't even know they put on a
Oh,
Band-Aid
okay.
until I was leaving.
Oh, okay.
But there was no blood at the scene. I wasn't hurt at
Oh,
all.
okay.
The whole car is banged up. I didn't feel it. And yeah, cops, ambulance, police, medics, they're all concerned as I should be dead. And I didn't feel I'm up there talking like I'm talking about seeing this monitors, this higher mind, this experience. Did y'all see this? Well, of course they didn't believe me. I wouldn't have believed me. So I'm at the emergency room and this guy walks in. I could tell I knew about him. I knew his name. I was seeing premonitions of this whole episode, even the cops, the ambulance. I didn't know how to put it into play. I mean, I was seeing premonitions of stuff 50 years in the future and 3 seconds in the future, just jumbled. Excuse me. So anyway, at the scene, they wouldn't let me go. Took me to the hospital, x-rayed me, couldn't keep me there. A guy walked in. I knew he's a psychiatrist, told him about his past thing with his wife and kids. And he's, what? How do you know this? I said, man, right now I know everything. Can I go home? I said, no, we can't let you go home like this. We're going to have to put you in a mandatory, what do they call it? Psychiatric hospital. Term of commitment for 10 days, check you out. I didn't care. You can put me anywhere. I mean, they got cops, ambulance, police. One guy, crazy weirdo. How am I going to fight him? I didn't even think about fighting. I didn't want to. I was at peace, man. I just been to heaven. You can put me anywhere.
Right.
They put me in a psychiatric hospital, and within a couple of days, everybody was calling me Mr. Smiles. I was playing piano, entertaining, talking to people. After a week, they bring you in front of a board of psychiatrists, make sure you're okay, because they can either request another 10-day commitment, mandatory. And I came in and I told them all, I ain't changing my story. Here's what happened. You guys are psychiatrists. You should be studying this, you know?
Mhm.
And if anybody can explain to me how I wasn't even hurt, didn't even feel a damn 3,000-pound car going 60 miles an hour right into my head, I'll listen. But you guys can't explain it. So right now, sorry, tie goes to the runner. I told the truth. And they let me out. About a month later, I had a relapse. Same thing started happening again. Not as intense. My parents came down. I went through another stay at a psychiatric hospital. And I could understand it because it took me months to kind of calm down. I was still picking up stuff all the time for months. Uh, I had no doubt what I went through. What I did not understand and what I really wanted to know is why me?
And
What,
why before it happened?
pardon me?
And why before it happened did you have this all of a sudden, these abilities?
Well, I was psychic. I started giving readings in the early 70s. I started practicing psychic ability, but I never thought about infinite mind. I never thought about leaving the body, going out there, coming back. That never occurred to me. There are people who are writing books about it then and had near-death experience, but I was completely unexposed to it. And nobody ever told me about it. I was a traveling musician and a psychic. And of course, you can't do much psychic readings. There wasn't internet, and I was in the phone book, but I was never there. I was always traveling. So anyway, they I had 2 commitments to a hospital. It took me 6 or 7 or 8 months to kind of understand this. And every day I'd ask, why me, guides? Why me? What did I possibly do to deserve this? And finally, and they let me ask. They let me wonder. They let me question it. No doubt what I went through, but what did I possibly do? And they finally told me 8 months later. The guides came back. I didn't see them this time, but I felt them sort of in my front yard, and they shot this message to my third eye. And it rolled off. I could see it in screen credits like a Superman movie vanishing in the distance. At the same time, I heard this one singular voice. And in essence, what they said is, the reason you had this, you always wanted to know. You always wanted to see the truth. You started asking questions. You learned to do psychic readings. You asked. You So you could handle the truth, as opposed to Jack Nicholson. You can't. I can handle the truth. I was ready. Took me. They brought me back, and they said, "You're correct. We had to have a bunch of groundkeepers take care of you, police, ambulance, family courts, because it was just too intense for you to just walk home, you know." So yeah, and that's the reason you had the experience. And they said you're correct. You are bipolar. You have extremes. Sort of like a lot of talents. If you get a lot of talent this way, you may be kind of crazy this way. I'm definitely manic and definitely bipolar. I went through so much depression, but they told me how to handle it. And they told me that I could conquer it. And I have. I'm 75. I went through a lot of depression. And I can actually verify that you can conquer it. You can learn to deal with it. I've conquered so many issues. Music, crappy voice. What did I do? At 1980, at 33 years old, I started teaching myself piano. And I knew 1,000 songs from playing guitar. I didn't know how to finger a piano. I spent 3 years learning to play the piano just to have two instruments because I had a crappy voice. 1983 and 4, I started talking my way into piano bars, and I learned that I can entertain. I can't sing that well. I can't play that well, but by God, I can talk. I grew up with 6 brothers, man. So I learned to be an entertainer rather than a great musician in mid 80s, and that carried me for the rest of my life. I never worried about the bands who wouldn't have me again because they couldn't sing well. Hey, buck stops here. Excuse me. So yeah, I taught myself piano. I learned to use my guides. 12 years ago, I asked my guides to bring me a soulmate. I've traveled my whole life, had girlfriends and lonely times, and never made a commitment. And 12 years ago, I asked my guides to bring me a soulmate. I don't want to date. I don't go through it. In fact, because intentions are the most important thing in life, I told my guides I'm signing a commitment for life deal. Sight unseen. You may bring her, you may help me find her, may not. Don't blame me for asking. And within a couple of months, I met the lady of my life. I've learned to find things all the time. I'm disabled. I can barely walk, and I don't need to go look for stuff. I think about it, then I find it. I
Where
used
did
to
you meet
watch,
her at?
pardon me?
Where did you meet her at? Were you playing music or?
No, actually, I kept asking my guide to help me, and I'm an actor who was worked in the music business, the movie business a little bit. Uh, Tom Cruise is very safe, by the way. I'm not going to take his career. Just thought I'd throw that in. So I was at a film mixer, a bunch of actors and writers, and she came in and walked up and introduced herself to me, and I almost fell over. Wow, you're the lady. And she didn't know it. It took me a couple of years to kind of talk her into my life. Uh, you don't get everything you ask for. But if you ask with good intentions, and that means the best for all, not just the best for me, with clarity, with good intentions, with good purpose, with win-win scenario, and you ask your guide to help you, no, you won't get everything, but 8 out of 10 is a lot better than 0 out of 0. Because the universe and our higher mind and our guides and your whole soul, they want us to know the power that's within us. They want us to bring it to here and now into play, not to get a gold star when we go back to heaven, but to make life work better here now. This is our challenge right here now, not out there. Never fear death, folks. Never. It's beautiful. And the best thing you can do is live a good life now. And that's about it. So yeah, I was very lucky what I went through. I learned on a very practical level to use this information. Taught myself piano, taught myself, I've got degenerative disc disease, spinal stenosis, foraminal narrowing, facet disease from my neck all the way down to my toes, my hands, tingling, nerves all day. But you know what? I wake up in the morning and I'm the happiest person on the planet. I don't live in Ukraine. I don't own Twitter. you know, count your blessings, folks. Count your blessings. So that's kind of a summation of what I was so fortunate to experience. And I've taken a personal commitment, sense of responsibility to when I do readings. I also do readings by a method called lithomancy. And actually, you can check that out, lithomancy.com. You can see what I do. I'm kind of booked up right now, but you can get on a waiting list. Lithomancy.com. That's a book I wrote about how to read signs, how to read stones, how to read symbolism. A Second Eternity is a book about my near-death experience. They're both on Amazon and Kindle. And so that's kind of a summation, Peggy. Questions?
You said something about a police report, so you would explain that later.
A police report?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the police reports are in the book. Of course, they didn't know anything that happened up to the time that they came to the scene of the accident. But from the police reports state very clearly how, I was head on with a speeding car, didn't even get hurt, and talking to people. And they came to talk to me at the emergency room because the driver was terrified. And he kept saying, "You heard, man, you heard." I get, back off, man. Let me think for a minute. And somewhere down there, he fell over. He claimed that I assaulted him. I didn't assault him. He tripped over his own foot. But they filed assault charges, kind of, I think, against me to protect him,
Oh.
because, he was speeding and he hit me.
Now, were you in the street or the sidewalk?
I was in between the street and the sidewalk, and exactly how I hit the car is kind of, you need to read the book. It's kind of
Okay.
bizarre, but I was absolutely protected. And it was my guides, when they came back 8 months later and told me why I had this experience, they said, yes, you needed grounding agents. You're pretty intense. You need to watch your diet, I'd watch your moods, but you will be able to see everything that you've seen here in your lifetime, a lot of it. And at the time, this was 1977, a lot of what I saw was pretty bizarre, like what we're going through now. Now that we're going through this in real time, this big, big, big world transformation, world revolution. Yeah, it's kind of ugly. It's kind of difficult. It's challenging, but I feel fortunate. At least it makes sense to me. I can see why we're going through it and what we need to learn and gain. So,
Uh, yeah,
as
I'm curious.
bizarre
Does
as it
your
is, I'm at
diet
peace. Pardon me?
does your diet affect your mood?
I still didn't hear you, sweetheart.
Is that true? Does your diet affect your mood?
Oh,
Affect
diet affects everything.
bipolar? Yeah.
Yeah, diet affects everything. I'm on a pretty healthy diet, but yeah, it definitely affects everything. And yeah, I ate a pretty damn healthy diet. I don't eat any junk food, no sugar, low carb, keto diet. Uh, it does make a difference, absolutely. In
Okay.
fact, everything makes a difference. The main thing that makes a difference in life, and I cannot underscore this enough, it's free will. We can't change the past, nothing up to this second. We can't change other people, really. You can affect people, beg, plead, vote for them. But if someone wants to believe the earth is square, good luck. Uh, Life is all about what we can change. And the real power in life is this moment and forward. And no matter what we did up to this second, we can't change it. We can benefit from it. We can learn it from it. We might as well. We've already been through it. We've already paid the price. Even if you'll pay the price in the future for something you did in the past, you can't change the past, so learn from it. And I tell people all the time, take the broken record off. If tomorrow's skeletons and broken records end up in tomorrow's closet or yesterday's skeletons, we brought them. We don't have to keep bringing them.
Do
It's
you
all a
still
matter of
have do you still
technique.
have that do you still have that level of sensitivity to voices and visions?
Not so 24/7, thank God, off the wall. I can control it now. I can do readings. I still have, but not to that degree. And I'll pay the. I'm much happier with having it a milder, understandable, usable level than full blast all the time. Couldn't turn it off, and actually couldn't really manage it. So yeah, I still have a lot of that psychic ability, but it's definitely more on a manageable level, controllable. I can turn it off, go watch TV, you know, not be overamped all the time. That was one particular moment in my life period for a week before the near-death experience, before the car accident, and several months after, kind of understanding, recouping. But what I learned, what I saw, I feel like I'm the luckiest person on the planet, because I know every one of us has an umbilical cord directly to infinite mind, and that we can pull on it and use it and make our life better for ourselves and other people. But it takes at least two things, like anything in life. If you want to attain it, you have to choose to do it, and then practice follow through, whether it's golf or raising your consciousness. But people don't have any idea how much they can read the signs, read life. I put it into play, I practice it, and I get answers all the time. And it's a workable system. Nobody starts the marathon at the finish line. We all start at the starting line.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if this food sensitivity is just like your sensitivity in general. You're sensitive to picking up, the voices or the visions, if it's just like a all around sensitivity, because I know I experienced that. It's like, it seems like the more my psychic sensitivities are flowing, it seems like the food sensitivities, and I'm sensitive to odors and asthma, and it just seems like I just become super sensitive all the way around. And so that's what I was asking about the food
I think
sensitivity.
we're, no two people are the same genetically and body wise and experience. And, no two people or things or anything can occupy the same time and space in time and space. So everything's separate and everything is basically unique. But everybody's connected to the same infinite source. You may pick up this and this and this. Nobody picks up everything all the time. You'd be crazy like I was, and you can't handle it. So yeah, certain people have certain talents. In music, I had a great drive. I can hear music. I can tell you a chord structure just listening. Just can't sing. Big critical part. So I had to figure
I
a way to
can't
make
sing either.
it. But yeah, we all have different talents. We all see different things. We all have a different, unique psychic perspective. But we can all learn to use that psychic perspective to tune in and get more information. And how do you do it? By practice and choice. Same way you advance in tennis or playing the piano or driving, practice, you know. And everything is relatively learnable, you know. Uh, I mean, someone who can't even understand simple science probably won't be a nuclear physicist, but you can sit down and explain something about the Big Bang to that person still. You understand? There's Everybody has different talents, different strengths, and different levels, but we're also all connected to the infinite mind. And so we can turn that switch on, other people can turn that switch on, but the switch does exist and can be turned on and can change your life, your history, and not your past, but how you deal with everything. Unlimited power. I suggest people tap into it.
You
Hey,
think just asking is an important thing to flip that switch?
I think intentions are the most important thing. Absolutely. You may not know how to talk to your guides or even believe in them or whatever. But if your intention is to grow and evolve, that puts you at the starting line on the marathon. It doesn't cross the line. You still have to do the run, but at least you're at the starting point. So yeah, intentions will bring about, they'll set you up so you can take more advances. Uh, Amen. And once you set your intentions and hopefully you get some sort of response or insight or, wow, that worked, then you can continue to grow in that level. Just like the more you practice piano, the better it becomes second nature, or the way you think, or golf, or anything. It can become second nature. You can operate on that magical, mystical level almost just by, it's the automatic default rather than the worry, the concern. Everybody goes through worry. Everybody goes through doubt. But if you didn't, you wouldn't learn how to conquer worry and doubt, would you? Everything happens for a reason. No accidents, no coincidences, none. Everything's cause and effect. You make a new cause, you make a new effect. I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to evolve. Or I'll just have a beer and ignore it all and go to the beach. That's free will too.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to leave us with or add or didn't get to go over?
No, but stay inspired, folks. We can't change the fact that we're going through a big revolution. It's affecting us all, but it's not insane. It's not in vain. It's trying to show us what needs to be fixed. So the more we step ahead of the curve, see what needs to be fixed within ourselves, our family, our immediate concern, what we can do. We can't go. I mean, if I could push a button, I'd get Russia out of Ukraine. I can't. We all have limited power, but we have unlimited power inside. And if we start turning that on, we feel better. We make the people around us feel better. We bring better results. We add to the overall pool of good intentions and actions. It's a win-win. Stay inspired. If you want to learn about lithomancy, go to my website, lithomancy.com. I'm kind of booked up now. We can put you on a waiting list. And A Second Eternity, you can look at those both on Amazon and Kindle. That is a textbook. That is a true story with the police records in it. Peggy, thank you for your time, my dear. Such an
Mhm.
honor.
All right. Thank you. All right.
You have a good day, sweetheart. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.